Hello to my awesome educator colleagues in medicine. Welcome to the short journey on professional education identity in medicine. I'm your host, Ian Molyneux. So a little bit about me. I'm the current program director of the University of Tennessee Health Science Center Anesthesiology Residency in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm also the education director for the Department of Anesthesiology, and I'm also an M.Ed candidate in health professional educations at the University of Louisville. So I guess I may have a little knowledge about education in medicine. When it comes to the concept of teaching, if we look at all aspects of our world, teaching occurs everywhere, every day, in many aspects, all the time. Managers of companies and institutions teach their subordinates in all different industries, and even animals teach their young how to navigate the world. Therefore, it should be no surprise that everyone in healthcare is or will be an educator at some point in their careers. Good healthcare is something that is needed universally. Everyone at some point in their lives will need competent healthcare. Competent healthcare cannot exist without people trained to provide good healthcare. This is why education in medicine is so important, because there is universal good that comes from being a great educator in medicine. So we want to do our part to become great teachers in medicine. But before you or I can do that, we must look inward and define who we are as teachers in medicine. We must define and explore our professional educator identities as clinicians. So according to an article by Seneca, when you're looking at the question, what is teacher or educator identity? Teacher identity is defined as the beliefs, values, and commitments an individual holds towards being a better teacher. With this understanding in mind, it is clear that faculty who establish professional education identities will be great teachers who will improve over time. Thea van Nagveld in the AMEE journal had a great quote that said, "A strong educator identity is important because it enhances a teacher's intention to stay in health professions education, it enhances their willingness to invest in faculty development, and enhances their enjoyment in the teaching role." So why isn't teacher identity stressed more, sorry? And that is a very good question. Unfortunately, most clinical institutions value clinical work, clinical efficiency, and clinical productivity, or research production far more than educational efforts. Individuals who receive grants, for instance, or who are famous for niche procedures or niche medical care will receive far greater prestige, pay, compensation, and efforts at recruitment than individuals who put the same or more effort into educating professionals will not. And guess what? The educational efforts of us as faculty are not any less important and also have the same long-term effects of improving healthcare as the researchers and famous clinicians have as well. So you must work on your educational identity and help join the mission to change the culture to stress the importance of medical educators in improving healthcare. So how do you create, define, and allow positive evolution of your educational identity? Well, first, you need to think about your roles. You're a clinician, you're a researcher, you're a teacher, you're an advocate, and you are an individual outside of medicine who may be, for instance, an animal lover, a parent, a musician, a runner, an activist. You wear all sorts of hats and have all sorts of interests outside of medicine. There may be times when these roles may seem to conflict with each other and clash, and that is known and that is okay. What is important for me, you, and all teaching faculty to realize is that we need to create an amalgamation of all these identities and allow for positive evolution of all the hats that we wear. We have to find an educator identity that works best for ourselves. Find the amalgamation that works best for you. I'd like to give some examples of how people create their own educator identities. One of my colleagues practices what is known as the compartmentalized model. He has stopped taking work home with him because he has found that it interfered with his family time negatively and that it caused him to view his work in a resentful manner and thus affected his ability to find joy in medical education. In fact, he finds separation and compartmentalization of all his aspects of work. He finds this advantageous to him, and he has found that this compartmentalized model works best for him as an educator, clinician, husband, and father. Another colleague of mine uses the hierarchical strategy. Here he focuses on his clinical task at hand first because he believes that he is always a clinician first. Teaching is a secondary but important activity for him. His clinical educator identity involves using methods such as this example where he will say something like, please pay attention to the steps I'm doing in this procedure and my techniques, and after I've completed the procedure, we will discuss the aspects that you need to pay attention to become proficient and safe in this procedure. By using this hierarchical method, he can focus on his clinical care first and then teach, a strategy that works well for him as a clinician and educator. I myself vacillate between the merged educator identity and the intersecting educator identity. For the most part, I tend to teach as I do clinical work, but as the situation may dictate, I may increase or decrease the importance of teaching or clinical work as I find it appropriate. I find, for me personally, compartmentalization is difficult in teaching, and that is okay. In fact, the idea is that you, me, and all other faculty must find our educator identity and positively evolve with this. The identity that works well for me may not work well for you, and that is completely okay. So now we know how important educator identity is, and now we are busy trying to define who am I as an educator. So looking at the types of educator identity, you can see that 4 main models exist. We have the hierarchical identity, where being a clinician is always first, with teaching as an important but secondary role. We have the compartmentalization educator identity, where the clinical research and educator activities tend to occur in very discrete events. Then we have the intersectional identity, where different aspects of being a clinician and educator will come to the fore or go to the background as different situations dictate for that faculty member. And then there is the merged educator identity, where all aspects of clinical and educational efforts tend to occur in tandem. It is important to realize that your educator identity is important. Education in medicine holds the same value, if not more value, than clinical productivity and research grants. So find your educator identity and embrace it. It is okay for this educator identity to change and evolve. Now, please go inspire the next generation of clinicians in medicine. Thank you for watching. Take care.